Alright guys, I was gonna record this with you, but it didn't record half of my video, which is alright. We'll just figure this out. So the future tense is what we're working on this week, as well as the conditional. It tends to be an easier tense, a more simple tense. And yeah, so let's get started. This is the future tense right here. I'd write that down. How do we express the future in Spanish? There's three ways. We could use ir just alone. We could use ir plus a plus infinitive, and like you see here, it's going to be the most common use. I put a star there because I wanted to express ir plus a plus infinitive truly is the most common use in Spanish. However, there is a third tense, the future tense, the actual future tense that we use in Spanish. Okay? An example of ir plus a plus infinitive is, remember, we have voy plus a plus the infinitive comprar, or we could say ir. We could use any infinitive right there that we want to be able to express the future tense. So it's different in Spanish and English because in Spanish the future tense is made up of one word, okay, which would be this right here. The verb that's conjugated, hablaré, means I will speak. And then the future tense in Spanish is made up of three words, okay? I will speak, right? That's the contrast right there. We have hablaré and I will speak. Excuse me. So, I mean, that's a pretty big contrast, right? We have three words in English compared to one word in Spanish, okay? The way that you conjugate the future tense is by adding on the following endings to the infinitive. So you're not dropping anything from a verb. What you're doing instead is you're adding on to the infinitive. The AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs all have the same endings. Okay? Goes as, a, hemos, es, an. So you can see I put two different colors. The reason why I put two different colors is because I teach this as Tetris blocks, right? So you have the E's on top, the A's on the bottom, all right? So if you remember your E's are on top, your A's on the bottom, you should be good to go. Everything has an accent except for nosotros. Cool. Nosotros. Okay. Cool. I mean, it's pretty simple. That's really it, other than irregulars. Okay. Let's do an example or two. So let's do the yo form. Okay, sometimes that happens. So let's do examples. Say the yo form of dejar, correr, and invertir. All right, so we have dejaré, correré, invertiré. Next one is the to form. So we have renunciarás, beberás, and vivirás. So the next one you can't really do. Okay, those three are irregular verbs, and I'm gonna go into the irregulars right now. Actually, before I do that, let's just make a mental note. There are no spell change, no stem change, there's no spell change, there's no stem change, no Kargarzar, in future tense. However, there are irregular verbs, and we're going to go into those right now. So let's just make it big. Irregular verbs. Alrighty. So endings for irregular and regular verbs are the same. So you're going to be using the same exact endings that we just used for the irregular verbs and the regular verbs. So those endings up top are super important because those are the only endings you're using for the future tense. Okay? So what you do for irregular verbs, need to change their stem in order to add the future endings. So up here, you realize that dehar, the stem is not changed. It's just dehare, right? But on the irregular verbs, you're going to be changing the stem, which would be the dej. You're not doing it here because that's not irregular. So I'm going to give you the list here. So we have 1, desir, 2, aser, 3, poder, 4, poner, 5, querer, 6, saber, 7 is salir, 8 is tener, 9 is venir. Okay. So I'm going to ask you for the stem here, and then let's say just the two form. So the OG stem is des, but that has to turn into deer. The os needs to turn into r. The pod has to turn into poder. The pone has to turn into ponder. The care or the care has to turn into double R. Sob needs to turn into sober. Sol has to turn into solder. Ten has to turn into tender. Venir or ven has to turn into vendor. Okay? So then now with these endings that you need to add on, all you gotta do is you gotta add it on for the two form, and then you're good to go. So let's do a couple. Alrighty, so diras, aras, podras, pondras, queras, sabras, Saldras, Tendras, Bendras. Okay. So all we did was we took this two-form ending and we put it at the bottom of the stem. So what you need to memorize, no, not that one. You need to memorize these new stems. Okay? So if you memorize these stems for the irregulars, then you're going to be able to conjugate it in any form. Okay? And that's the only real irregular that you're going to see. Okay? So we do have the future tense of bear, which is irregular. Aber, future, only one form, bra, okay? And it translates to there will be. So you're never going to conjugate aber with like the two form, okay? You're only going to conjugate it in the third person singular, and so that means there will be, okay? So, for instance, one of the main uses of the future in Spanish is to speak about probability. And per se, if I wanted to say something like donde estarán mis llaves, where I wonder where my keys are. So wonder, there's not a word for it in Spanish. Instead, we can use the future tense in order to be able to convey the wonder or the probability. I could respond to that as a different person. Like we could say this is like Esteban and this is Jose. And Jose could say estarán en la silla. They are probably in the seat. So in that case, you can answer a conjecture one. This is conjecture. Like wonder. With a probability. So they're both used in the future tense, but they're both saying different things. One is saying, I wonder where they are, and one is saying they're probably in the seat. Okay? So that's just one of the main uses of the future tense for Spanish. Muy bien. So just conjugate a couple of these for me. So we have hacer, two form, poder, in the ea form, and ir in the yo form. Aras, podra, and ire. Ir is not irregular in the future tense. It always seems like it's irregular in other tenses, but in the future tense it's not. So ire is correct. Podra is correct. If you put an N here, that would be incorrect because that's for poner, not poder. Yeah, and that's our future tense. We're going to go into it a little bit more tomorrow with some activities. All right, boys, don't forget to do your homework tonight. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.